How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over the planned Sorc build that I have for Season 2, Season of Blood, and that is going to be a Hydra Inferno Sorc. For this build, the new vampiric powers, there's quite a few of them that are really pumping out the damage for Conjurations. So if you see this first one, Coven's Fangs here, are giving a massive damage increase to Conjurations, which are going to give you a big increased damage to crowd controlled enemies, as well as have them be your source of triggering Vampiric Curse. And then we also have there was a buff to the to Hydra. For the Hydra also burns enemies for an additional 12% of its base damage, and they increased that to 60% of its base damage over 6 seconds instead. So quite a significant bump to the burning damage on Hydra. So with this, with the additional buffs to Conjuration, as well as they added a new aspect here called Battlecaster's Aspect, which right here for Conjuration builds, this when your Conjuration skills hit, you have a up to a 40% chance to gain +1 rank to your Conjuration skills for 12 seconds. So this can stack up to 3 times. So with this, we should be pretty consistently running around with like close to like level 15 Hydra with perfect gear, which is going to be massive. I mean, that's going to be a ton of damage. So there's huge build potential for this. For the vampiric powers that you see that we're running here, planning on running Coven's Fangs for that vampiric curse effect. We're planning on running Domination. Because you are stunning, immobilizing, and freezing things constantly, you are going to be able to take, you should be able to get 72% increased damage out of this, as well as the kind of culling effect here for non-elites. And then we have Anticipation, which is going to be reduced cooldown on our ultimate skill, as well as additional damage for Inferno. With this, because of the amount of burning that you'll typically have just from Hydra hitting things, Inferno should be getting some bonus damage out of this. But mainly, this is just resetting the cooldown for Inferno, or getting it lower rather, so you just have more sources of pull to kind of pull everything all together in order to kind of get that big cleave on it. And then we have Prey on the Weak, which is going to be increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and then this is basically your permanent source of vulnerable on things, since you're getting Vampiric Curse on them from Coven's Fangs. And then we have Metamorphosis, which is pretty much going to be a build staple on basically every single build throughout the game. This is the going to be like the Heart of the Barber from last league, where every single build and every single character is using it. Yeah, other than that, pretty much we have the same standard stuff on every Sorc. Raiment is just the best unique in the game for Sorc. You pretty much can't play a Sorc build without it, so you end up running that. We have Serpentine Aspect in order to get a second Hydra down. This is going to be build requiring. And then Tybalt's Will is, I mean, it's going to be good if you can get it. I have a feeling these are going to be really, really rare since they dropped from Duriel, which seems like all the uniques that they had dropping from Duriel seem like they're like tier 1 rarity. So you don't see them that often. They're going to probably be on the same drop rarity as like Tempest Roar, things like that. So we're going to be trying to get these pants just to have some extra resource generation. But if not, then you're just going to be rolling your standard like double damage reduction pants with some life, or triple damage reduction pants with some life type of situation. For your boots, you want to be running Exploiter's Aspect, which is just going to be some additional damage for bossing. If you don't have this one, the other option is Aspect to Shared Misery. You can run this early on if you don't have Exploiter's Aspect, so you can spread your crowd controls around, but it's not really necessary. And then for your weapon aspects, again, we want this Battlecaster's Aspect here for additional Conjuration skill ranks, and then we're going to be running Edge Masters on our other weapon, and then we're running Aspect of Control on our Amulet, just because this is the best mod for Sorc, period. Then we have Conceited Aspect on one of our rings for increased damage while we have Barrier active, and then we have Aspect to Splintering Energy, which is going to be an additional chance to spawn and second like Lightning Spear when we cast it. For the skills itself that we're just running Teleport, Inferno, Icy or Ice Blades, Lightning Spear, Ice Armor, and Hydra. And then the enchantments we're running is going to be Ice Blades and Frost Nova. We're pretty much just using Hydra to be proccing our Frost Novas. If we don't have enough lucky hit chance, pretty much what you're stacking on this is you're stacking as much lucky hit chance as possible. If we still don't have enough with Frost Nova in order to do this, then the recommendation will be to, most likely you'll just want to be dropping Inferno and picking up Frost Nova instead. You can do that. It's going to be a variant depending on how much the lucky hit chance is for you, depending on what you have for your gear. This should be enough with Frost Nova here, but if you do want that extra control, you can end up throwing that on instead of Inferno as well, and it's not really going to change things too much. If you do end up doing that, instead of running Anticipation, you would end up just running Feed the Coven here instead, which is just going to be some additional damage and extra resource. But the only skill we have that's actually using resource here is going to be our Hydra. So because of that, you're typically always on full resource anyways. So you can run that, or you can be running like Flowing Veins or something else, but it doesn't really matter too much on this. So in regards to the skill tree here, the final skill tree, we're pretty much just going for this Potent Warding here, extra resistances as we lead up to this. We have some points in Teleport for the extra damage reduction, some points in Ice Armor for additional barrier here. We got 1 point in Elemental Attunement just to have a little bit of extra chance to reset some cooldowns. We take the maximum points in Hydra, or the maximum points in basically the entire Conjuration tree here, except only 1 point in Align the Elements. You aren't really getting hit that much because of how you play this build. You're kind of always just dropping your Hydras or your Conjurations out in front, and they're kind of aggroing things for you or showing where things are. So you're kind of off-screening a lot. So you don't really need full 3 points in this. You'll typically have this up fully for elites. And then we have the maximum amount of points here. We have 3 points in Inner Flame, 3 points in Devouring Blaze, and then we have 2 points in Crippling Flames. And then we have some points here in Permafrost, Icy Touch, and Hoarfrost. Because we're always going to be chilling and freezing enemies, we are going to have a... we're going to be able to get the full amount of this multiplier out of Hoarfrost, and then we're getting some additional stuff out of Permafrost because of for our Icy Blades and our Frost Novas. And then we have Inferno here, and then we're taking Shatter. For this, this is just because we're freezing things so frequently with the procs on the Frost Nova. For Paragon here, you want to end up taking this Conjurer first. This is just going to give increased duration to your Conjuration skills. And then we are picking up the Elemental Summoner node here. And then we are going into Control, followed by Destruction. We push all the way over here into Burning Instinct. This is how we're basically taking advantage of our critical strike damage in order to turn it into a multiplier for burning damage, since we're not actually really relying that much on the crit. The crit damage is still going to affect like the hit portion of Hydra and things like that, but it's also going to be pushing things over. And then we're pushing over here into Invocation. So this is going to be reduced damage or some more damage reduction because of our Conjurations. And then we are pushing up here into Exploit for this one here, and then for our last one we are pushing into Reinforced just for additional damage reduction while we have Barrier. For leveling this build, you're not really going to be running this early on. For leveling, you're going to want to be running this Flame Wall leveling build here. Pretty much for this, you start things out, you want to go and get your Aspect of Control, your Edge Master's Aspect, and Prodigy's Aspect, putting these on your jewelry, since you are going to be swapping your weapons more frequently early on. And for the leveling on this, you start with your 3 points here in Arc Lash just for the additional movement speed. You start off, you end up running Frozen Orb at the very beginning, probably until it's like around level 15 or something like that. You end up running Frost Orb here. You end up taking your Flame Shield, Teleport, and your Frost Nova. You push these points through. with your points in Glass Cannon until you get to Firewall. And then once you put all the points into Firewall here, that's when you end up rotating out of Frozen Orb, since you don't need it. Early on, while you are leveling here, you are going to end up putting a couple points into Fireball, because you are going to want to use the Fireball enchant while leveling here. This is going to give you a lot of additional kind of clearing potential early on. As you get later and you start to get more multipliers set up for the actual burning damage on Firewall, you can swap this to be a Firewall enchant instead. But my recommendation is to leave it on Fireball for the majority of your leveling. And then as you push down here, again, we're pushing into Combustion. But the full tree is covered here. For the build required aspects that come from the codex, I included them in the spreadsheet here with some pictures. You can also find these on mapgenie.io if you want to look things up, or if you just search them in the codex, you can pin them directly from there. But these are going to be the required codex aspects for the build. Anything else you get is just going to be kind of luck of the draw. Basically, focus it off of the end game build, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. So, yeah. If you have any questions about the build or any questions about it, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, see you in the next one.